You're rocking with some of the realest coaches in the game. Coach RB and Coach CB. Area code 459.
Welcome back, guys, to Area Code 459 podcast. It's your boy, Coach B. I'm here hanging with my co-host, Coach CB. What's up, CB?
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, man. Before we get started, we've got two special guests in the house. Before we can introduce them, I want to go ahead and thank some people. Take it away, CB.
We'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, East Bay In-House Ink and Jade Made Crafts. We couldn't have done it without them. They have helped us get our logo and our merchandise off the ground. And most importantly, all the people that have supported us, our family, our friends, and God for giving us the direction and the vision to know how to get Area Code started and make it to what it is today.
Well, we're going to switch it up today. Usually I do a lot of the introductions for our guests, but I'm going to let you have it. But today we're talking about conceptual origins of success, and we're going to be focused on the ears. But before we can introduce that, man, go ahead and introduce your guest, CB.
Man, I'm so excited to have both of you guys on. You know, ladies first, as I've always been taught. But she is originally from Pensacola, Florida. She played at Woodham High School. She then took her career to Okaloosa Walton Junior College, where she then transferred on to Long Island University. There she was on the Northeast Conference Academic Honor Roll. She then came back home and has been teaching and coaching at Washington High School for over 8 years. 6 years as a women's basketball head coach. She won her 100-win season in 2018-19, has appeared in the state tournament 4 times and has been to Elite 8 once. She has produced the Pensacola Player of the Year 6 out of the last 8 years. She has multiple players playing in college, most recently being Jayla Roberts and Janelle Jones. And on top of all of that, she is a woman of faith and strives to shape high-character young men and women. How are you doing, Coach Jade Brown?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. I'm really excited and blessed to be here with you guys today. It's a great opportunity. Thanks for the intro. Now all I need is one of those shirts you got on.
Hey, we can make that happen. We can make that happen.
Absolutely.
Next guest we have on, this guy's like an uncle to me, man. He's family. I honestly didn't know how smart you were, Coach. You're low-key a genius, but you have an undergrad degree in English. You have 2 master's degrees, one in educational leadership and the other in coaching and athletic administration. I know you've coached on all levels. You've coached in the ABA and the WBA. You've also coached in college at Georgia Southern and Alcorn State. Most recent high school stints, you were at St. Francis, where you appeared in the state tournament 5 times. You were the runner-up in 2013 season and then actually won the whole thing in 2014, so congratulations for that. You spent 3 years at Duluth High School, where you were in the state tournament every year there, back-to-back Sweet 16s, and had the most wins in a 3-year span at Duluth. 54-36 is the record, to be exact. Currently, you reside at Holy Innocents, where your first year there, you took them to the Elite 8, which is a great accomplishment. You now have 30 college players, most going Division I, 30 all-region players, 18 all-state players, 1 McDonald's All-American, 2 current NBA players with Malik Beasley and Kobe Simmons. And on top of you developing all of those high-caliber athletes, you really care about the people that work for you. And you're a service-minded guy, you're a faith-filled guy. And the thing that sticks out to me most is that you've had 10 assistant coaches who are all now high school head coaches in the Atlanta area. So how are you doing, Coach Cabral Huff?
I'm excited to be on. Happy to share this journey with everybody on here. You're right, Coach Brown. That introduction right there, I don't know if I can beat that. Like,
Right.
Didn't say that for some time later. Like, hopefully when they putting something up for me somewhere, I don't know.
Right.
Hey, if you ever need it again, just call me up and I'll say it for you.
Well, guys, fire me up, man. That is so awesome. Both of you guys are great individuals, and we're so blessed to have you guys here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our podcast episode just so that we get going, and I want to get into the deep conversation and give our listeners this perspective coming from Coach Brown and Coach Huff. Man, so today we're talking about the conceptual origins of success. We're talking about the ears. old people used to tell me back in the day, and I'm not going to call them old, I'm just going to call them wise, but you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You need to learn the art of listening. An effective listener is able to open a world of opportunities and perspectives. Good listeners pay attention to specific thoughts and feelings and attitudes, that give them the ability to see the world through a different lens. These components are often very, very important to, build successful relationships and develop effective and efficient communication. As a man of faith, I've always believed in the Christ model and for my life, and it was a fitting way for me to live. With numerous times of reading and studying and listening, I hear God call us to pray, and then I also hear him to love. But when you say pray, you're basically speaking out to him. So he's modeling a skill, right? He's modeling that skill of listening. So God uses that skill set that's modeled to being an effective listener, and I want to be an effective listener. So as we get going, I want to know, like those wise people used to tell us, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. How would you explain that in your own words? Ladies first.
I would say that, especially being an educator and a coach and being at the secondary level, high school for me, I take it as I saw this quote and I keep it in my phone. I have a list of quotes in my phone that I like, and this is one: serve their heart, not their talent. And to me, that means that if I can have a relationship with you, you'll do anything that I need. When you coach young people and you teach young people. So for me, those 2 ears and that 1 mouth, that saying means that I want you to listen to me, but I also got to listen to you. A lot of times as an educator, or I'll say this because I teach psychology at the high school level, a lot of times kids see me as a teacher, as a coach, as an authority figure, which I am. But one thing I tell my students is that I'm going to respect you if you respect me, but I also got to be willing to listen to get an understanding. And again, a lot of things you'll hear me saying is because I teach psychology. So I look at things a little bit differently from a lot of individuals. My minor is in psychology. So a lot of times before I even say anything, I'm observing you way more than anything else. And to me, observation plays a big role in wanting to listen. So a lot of times, especially things that are going on in the world right now with, social injustice, a lot of us don't want to listen. A lot of us want to change behavior. And one thing I tell my students, and again, you have to excuse the psychology standpoint from me.
Good. You're good.
That, we a lot of times we hear this: oh, that's a bad kid. Well, why is he bad? Did you ask him hitting somebody at a young age? Oh, little Johnny keeps hitting such and such, as a 4-year-old in class. Well, did you know that Johnny sees his dad hitting his mom every night? So before we can change one's behavior, we have to be ready to listen. I can't change your behavior until I understand how you think. And if I want to understand how you think, I've got to listen to what you're telling me, and I've got to listen to learn. And I think something Caitlin sent me the other day was, I'm not listening to reply. And that's hard as an authority figure, as a coach and an educator, because a lot of times we're trying to make corrections. But being at the high school level, my thing is I want to listen to learn. Help me to understand you. And that's something I tell my players as well. Like, a lot of times I may tell them, I'm asking you yes or no questions. But if you truly don't understand, you got to tell me, how can I break this play down so that you can understand? So I think it's really important that we listen to learn, not listen to correct or reply. And that's kind of where I've been raised like that by my mom and dad. We have a pretty, good relationship where, mom will listen, but she is old school now.
Right.
She gonna say what she want to say.
Right.
But I think as I've gotten older, even just some of the conversations me and my mom and my dad we have all the time, listening to each other and understanding each other, because a lot of times we just listen to reply, and we as a society, we've got to learn to do a better job of that.
Right.
And Coach Brown, you said so many great things there. I was just listening to you, just feeling like just being locked into you. But you talked about being able to listen I kind of put it this way: listening to understand instead of listening to respond. And many times, especially in society right now, everyone is listening to respond. And especially if you add the piece with the social injustice, like we've got to really understand where people are coming from, why things happen, to really be able to make change. And I think that's the big thing that we have to understand in this world today when we talk about listening. I'm truly big on servant leadership. I'm truly big on relationships. And to be a servant leader, you've got to listen. And too many times leadership, which I feel right now in our country is lacking, too many times leadership only wants to hear themselves, only want people to hear them, instead of listening to the people, instead of listening to the problems or issues that people have, because every issue is not an attack on you. And if you're able to listen to it, you'll be able to decipher that. I think part of listening is also discernment. We talk about that in the Bible. We talk about it in servant leadership. You have to be able to discern the things that are coming into you. So when you talk about those ears, if you truly are able to listen without trying to respond, now you can have some discernment. And then when we talk about relationships, I think that's one, to me, we talk about all those things, Caitlin, that you gave in my intro. Those are great, but it's the relationships to me that really matter. And the only way you can build relationships is to really be able to listen to the players that we're able to serve, the students that we're able to serve. In my servant leadership class, we dealt with a lot of hard topics. Even before this social injustice things in the world came out, we were talking about things. We were diving into some deep issues because we have people on different sides of the fence. But as we got to the end of the school year, even though it was virtually, I got an email from one of the students in the class who thanked me for being able to lead them and listen to them and treat them as adults, as seniors, without trying to push my way on them, without trying to direct how we were going to go in the class through conversations, but being able to listen and give and interject what I've seen, interject how I think they, should view different aspects of different things. And I think that's where we have to go with servant leadership. And that's where we have to go with listening to respond. I mean, it's listen to understand instead of respond.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And I love this quote. And I always say it, that people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that is so important when it comes to listening, because the more you know about somebody, the more you know how to serve them, the more you know how to meet their needs without them having to tell you. And one thing I know about both of you is that y'all are always looking for ways to grow, always looking for ways to improve. I know you're both leaders. Coach Huff, I always see you on Zoom. Coach Jade, you're always asking questions on social media, looking for people's feedback and seeing how other people have a different perspective. So for both of you guys, when did you discover the value of listening, and what has this discovery done for you both?
Coach, you want me to take that one first? Or
Yeah, you can take that one first, Coach. Then you can pass it to me when you finish.
I got you. I know how to set people up too now.
I like it.
I think it came at an early age, really understanding that. But to take it to another realm, it actually happened probably when I got to St. Francis, to be honest with you, because I think sometimes as a coach, especially when we get our first jobs, we think we know everything. We've been to all these clinics. We've been ready to get in that chair so long that we think we know everything. And sometimes we got to get knocked down. We have to be humble to be able to understand that we got to continue to grow. We got to continue to listen to get better. And so when I got to St. Francis, I remember a conversation I had with three gentlemen, David Boyd, who at the time was at Milton, Sherman White, who at the time was at Miller Grove, and Courtney Brooks, who at the time was at Southwest Atlanta Christian. I felt I had a good team that could be great, but as a young coach, I wanted to know how to get them over the top. And so I reached out to all three of them, and the basis that all three said was about relationships. They didn't mention anything about being on the basketball court. They talked about how you got to take them out. You got to take them to dinner, take them to the movies, know about their home life, know about their family, know what really makes them tick. And as that was taking place, and getting those kids, because I was able to get those kids at St. Francis in 7th and 8th grade, we grew together and our relationship grew. So that's how I believe I really understood what it meant to grow as a person, to grow together with someone, and to reach a higher plateau that's bigger than you. one of the things I told them all the time was, as good as they were individually, you can go score 30 points for anybody, but are you going to leave a legacy? That was my biggest thing I wanted them to understand, was to leave a legacy. So when 10, 20 years you come back and you bring your family, they'll be able to see something how you left your mark. Not just how many points you scored, but how you left your mark. And right now, to this day, they can talk about their state championships. They can talk. Two of them can talk about going back to see their jersey retired. And though the jersey retirement is an individual accomplishment, it still leaves a legacy, because they're not going to retire your jersey, especially at high school. You haven't done something special. And if you weren't a good person, they still won't do it. You could be a great basketball player, but not a good person. So that was kind of the start of it for me, along with my mentor, Coach Virgil Amy, who I was able to work for when I first got out of college at, ironically, Coach Brown, Booker T. Washington High School here in Atlanta, Georgia. And he taught me a lot of that. He was the first person to build into me and teach me how I needed to grow. And in turn, it's so funny that, my first year at Duluth, he was my assistant. So how the roles reversed in that aspect. So I think that's where I first really got it. We get it in college some, when you've got to grow and you learn becoming a man or becoming a woman when you go to college. You get it from your parents. But I think sometimes in your profession, what your passion is, you get it at a different time. You understand it more. So that's kind of when I got it.
Coach, I have to tell you this. The Booker T. Washington here in Pensacola, Florida is the oldest in the nation. I would say, for me, the listening has been conditioning me since birth, meaning that my parents, I would say that was part of their discipline. You're going to listen to what we have to say in our household, or as my mom would say, don't let that door hit you where the good Lord split you. So I would say that it started there, understanding that if I want something, there are certain things that my parents expect for me to do as growing up in their household. But I would say that, kind of like Coach said, when I got into my profession, that's coaching and teaching, I think that's when I really understood how important listening is. I would say some mentor teachers to me, one is actually an assistant principal. One thing she told me it was nothing that I needed to do, like getting test scores, some certain high percentage, or, winning all these games. This teacher kind of took me under her wing, and now she's an assistant principal here at a local high school, and said, if you want to keep your job, when it comes down to, because Coach knows this, in our field of teaching, they cut teachers left and right now. It's hard to get them, but a lot of times, cuts come, the money's not there. She said, if you want to keep your job, when it comes down to it, and they look at your name and they look at the list of names they have, they want to look at you and say, if we lose this individual, we're going to be losing more than just her. Because you are so valuable to the school that if it comes down to making cuts, you want them to say, we're not just losing a unit, a classroom teacher. We're losing someone who's involved in this, and this. So that was my first year teaching. That person is still, again, assistant principal here at a local school, and is a true mentor to me. And then it also hit me my first year coaching. We went to Florida State camp. And we were getting beat.
Right. Everybody gets beat at that.
My first group of young ladies, we were the Bad News Bears my first year. Right. We were 9-11. But my second year, we were number 1 in the state. And then my fourth year, we won our first district championship, and we got our first player of the year. But Don Brown at Choctaw High School, which is about 45 minutes, an hour away from here in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. We were at Florida State. His team is there as well. He comes up to me, and he tells me something that I didn't really understand. I was listening because we were so bad. It's like, everybody's saying, oh, you guys are going to be good. Keep fighting. And he just came up to me, he and his wife, we were sitting there, and he says, I want you to listen to me. And I said, yes, sir. When you get good and you start winning, watch how the applause stop. Watch how the applauses stop. And I didn't understand that. I mean, I felt like he was kind of at first like, telling me like, everybody keep telling me the same thing, just keep working hard, you guys are going to get it. But that statement stuck with me because especially last year, 2018, 2019, probably one of our best seasons. It was amazing how a lot of people my first year when I was 9 and 11, like, hey, Coach Brown, y'all got it. Hey, they turned it back. They don't even speak. They don't wave.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my mom and dad taught me to listen. But since I've become an adult in my profession of teaching and being a high school coach, I've learned to listen to, I would say, not necessarily elders, but people that have been there and done that. Because like Coach said, a lot of times, you know, us coaches, we just are chiefs and we forget it's okay to be an Indian. And for me, I would say that mentor teacher and for sure Coach Don Brown, those two statements have just stuck with me. And had I not listened to them, had I listened to them to reply, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And I listened to them to receive. And I think those two statements have done a great deal in shaping me in my profession, both as an educator and a coach.
Right, man. And yeah, they do have it going on in Choctawhatchee, Florida. So I know what you're talking about. You know, Coach Brown, this one's actually for you. And I kind of want to go, you know, a little bit further into that. Has there ever been a time where you didn't want to listen? Where you just like, you know what, I don't really want to listen to this, even though the advice that someone was given to you might have actually been helpful at the time, or you might have saw it being helpful later. Was there a time that you just didn't want to listen?
Oh, there's several times. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to you about that. And you know, we talk about relationships, and I know Coach can say the same thing. My assistant coaches that coach with me, I don't say they work for me. We work together. And there are times, not during the game, I'm always listening to them, but there will be times where one of my assistant coaches, we played high school basketball together. Her sister was my college roommate. So we grew up together. Matter of fact, we stay around the corner from each other. My other assistant coach, he's like my big brother. Mm-hmm. And we've known each other since we were younger as well. And there are times where I want to respond to maybe some things parents have said to me, Coach don't say. Mm-hmm. And my coaches are like, nah, we're not even going to entertain that, JB. And it's like, man, but come on, I got to say something. And they're like, is it worth it? So again, relationships, surround yourself around people who not only are going to challenge you, but lift you up, let you know when you're right and you're wrong. And I would say my staff that I work with, you know, there are times where I'm just like, y'all really don't think we need to say anything? And they're like, just let it go. Like, so there have been plenty of times, you know, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more times where it's like, I ain't trying to hear that. But, you know, as they say, you know, hey, you got people there that are going to keep it real with you. And I really thank my staff, because had it not been for those guys, you know, I might not still be coaching sometimes. Right. They're definitely the ones that are kind of like, you know, I would say really, really keep me humble. And I mean, I just thank them every day. And I tell them that all the time, especially with us being in COVID. We've had so many conversations because we actually stopped our workouts probably 3 weeks ago. And it was just back and forth dialogue, again, of listening to each other. So I would say, yeah, there's a lot of times where I'm like, I don't know. But I thank God that he has put people in my life to kind of take that thought process out and bring in those positive vibes to where it's like, hey, okay, JB, it's time to listen.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, that's so good. And you're talking about like having the positive voices in your life. And a lot of times in the world, you know, we tend to put ourselves down. We tend to be harder on ourselves than everybody else around us is. And I know that's something I struggle with. I've really had to learn how to have positive self-talk, to feed that positive dog inside of me and not the negative one, so I can continue pushing forward. Coach Huff, what are some things that you do to help yourself listen to that positive voice and kind of filter out all of the negative stuff that kind of can go on in your mind?
No, it's funny. I think you've got to take 15 to 30 minutes a day and just be by yourself. And I don't know if some people, you can pray. I know I pray during that time. I try to meditate during that time. But that's a great time to talk to God, to talk to yourself, and just give that positive energy that you need. We all have tough times. You know, we could be sitting here right now, and one of us, everybody thinks we're doing well, but we're going through it. We have to continue to talk to ourselves to get through that tough time that we're going through. And I tell you, I try to do that every morning, and I try to take my time when I go through my runs and listen. We've got to control what we're listening to as well. Like some of the things that are going on. If we listen to the news all the time, if we listen to the wrong kind of music all the time, we listen to the wrong movies all the time. Not saying they're not entertainment or, we don't have to, but we've got to listen to the right things. And those right things can put the right vibes into you to give you that positivity. And I try to do that every morning after that 15 to 30-minute meditation prayer. I try to listen to podcasts on my runs every morning. Sometimes it's about basketball, which is the passion that I love and what I love to do. But a lot of times it's about leadership. Sometimes it's the word that I'm listening to, podcast from a preacher or a church I don't go to. Sometimes it's just, John Gordon does great things with positivity. I think we have to do more of that. And once we do that, we open ourselves up and we realize something we thought was a big issue is really not that big,
Right.
Or what we're trying to rush to do, we've got more time to do. We don't have to be pressed to do it. We put more restrictions on ourselves many times than we need to. So we've got to listen to the positive thoughts that are around us, have the right kind of people. I love what Coach Brown said to your question, Coach Britton, is that we got to have accountability partners. And sometimes during that time when it's just you've got to call your accountability partner, because yes, they can hold you accountable on things that you don't need to do, but they can also give you praise when you need it.
Right.
You gotta have those kind of people who are not just calling you to talk to say something negative or something wrong about, man, did you see that going on? That shouldn't be happening. You got to have that accountability partner that's pushing you up, and you've got to be that accountability partner for them. So those are just some of the things that I really love. That's every morning for me, to be honest with you, Caitlin. Every morning.
Right, Coach
I love
Huff,
that you
man.
said that because.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Sorry, but I love that you said that because one of the things that most people hate about Atlanta is the traffic. But one thing I love about Atlanta sometimes is the traffic, because it takes me 35 minutes to get to work every day. And I spend that 35 minutes worshiping and being in prayer. And I realize that I'm so much better off for the kids and the people that I work around when I have started my day like that versus when I wake up late and I'm rushing around to do stuff, because then I forget to sit there and to meditate on the positivity in life and the fact that I woke up that morning and I have a car and I have the means to get to work and a job, especially during this time. So I think that's so important that you spend that time really meditating and digging into yourself.
Right, Caitlin, and I really like that you said that too, because I told you when I first moved to Austin, Texas, that was the same way. Like, it's just traffic on top of traffic. It's not Atlanta traffic, but it definitely is traffic. But Coach Huff, just back to your points, man, you were definitely giving us some nuggets and some different things that you do. Like, I'm a big John Gordon fan, so I really like his energy bus. So energy bus is a big thing that I really go through. I used to actually have all of my athletes, especially my college athletes, read Mind Gym. So it talks about positive self-talk. What kind of advice, or what would you advise a young student or player as far as some techniques to have to implement in their day every day to become an effective listener?
I think they've got to have real conversations with people who are not yes people. That's going to be really tough now, especially when you're young. So you've got to actually seek out people who are going to be hard on you, but that's going to make you listen to what needs to be heard. I think that would be probably the biggest advice I would give someone. Like I said, Virgil Laming was that guy for me, who made me see things in a light I had never seen before. I was born in Atlanta, grew up in Atlanta, did Teach for America. They pushed me, they sent me to Houston, and then I got placed right back in Atlanta. So I was a Atlanta Public Schools kid, went to Benjamin Mays High School. I got put in Booker T. Washington High School, which is another Atlanta public school, was there for 4 years. And he pushed me to think outside my comfort zone. To say, you need to go work in a different district so you can see something different, because you haven't seen anything different. And if that hadn't happened, I'm probably not here talking to you today, whether it's accomplishments, failures, whatever is happening. I wouldn't have had that experience that I needed. So they have to have somebody that they can open up to, that can tell them things that nobody else will, that allows them to listen. I think that's going to be the best advice I would give them.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and along the same lines, especially both of y'all produce a lot of high caliber athletes. And I know Janelle, for you, Coach Brown, personally, she come down to the community center where I work, where, Coach Avery was at. Great dude, but I know she committed her junior year, and everybody was like, "What? Why do that? Why not wait for more offers, bigger offers, better offers to come through?" And I know that you're a source of wisdom for her. So how do you help players like her to discern wisdom and filter through that good and bad advice that comes from all of the outside noise and outside influences that are around athletes like her?
I think Coach said, the people you're surrounded by. I'm big on, family, and and I'm sure Coach would say it too. It's not every kid, but you could tell a kid it comes from a good background, and that makes a huge difference. So with Janelle, she was a special kid because of not only was she an outstanding player, she was an outstanding student, and her mom and dad, also pushed her. I mean, her grandfather was the first African-American to play for the University of Florida, won championships at Booker T. Washington as a player and a coach. So it was almost kind of in her to be great. And I think if it had not been for her family background, it would have been a lot more challenging for me to kind of throw my 2 cents in, because like he said, you have a lot of people that surround these high profile athletes and want to just grab the coattail, and want to be like, hey, let's do this, not a, no, you don't need to do that. So for Janelle, it's a unique story, because when she came to me, it wasn't a lot that I had to do, because she came from such a great family background. And I think that plays a huge role. But I've had different athletes where, we've had conversation and goes back to relationship. They trusted me. So what I told them, I didn't have all the answers, but I can get you the answers to the questions that I don't have. And if I can get them to trust me, that's half of the battle right there. So for Janelle and even some of my other athletes, it was a big trust that we had. And when you know that your athletes trust you, it's a lot easier to coach them. So that's really kind of how I do things, is really building that relationship with them. It may just be sending a funny, meme through a text message or things like that. Or I know at times, we talk about relationship and getting kids to buy into some of the things you say. I would go down sometimes and eat lunch with my players. Just little things to, show them, hey, and we won't even talk about basketball, who you dating, who you talking to now, things of that nature. So once they knew again that I cared, it became, I think, a lot easier for them to trust my words and my wisdom that I have. And like I said, I always tell them, and I tell my girls this as I coach them, I tell them this in the classroom, I don't know everything, but I could probably find the answer to your question if I can't answer it. Right. So that's kind of where it is for me, as far as, getting my athletes to listen and my students as well.
Right. If I can piggyback on that, I just think about my time, obviously being my first year at Holy Innocents. And the first thing I did was try to meet with my guys once a week, before basketball season started, and have lunch with them so I could get to know them, because that's so big. That trust factor is so big, because once you gain the trust of your players by getting to know them, then you can start having those conversations with them about who has their best interests at heart, because they're going to be hearing it from every which way. And, during this pandemic time, I got a chance to really get to know Penny Collins, who's the head coach at Tennessee State. And he calls it the sniper series. And he talks to his players about the sniper series, that you have snipers at different levels. Once that game is over, then you got to get in the car. And sometimes that sniper could be the parent who is saying, well, why didn't you shoot the ball this much today? Or why didn't you do this? Which the player is all in, bought into what Coach Brown is trying to say, what myself is trying to say, but they get that sniper series of hearing the wrong thing when they get in the car. Or maybe it's when they go to the calf if they're a college student. Hey, why ain't you getting as many minutes as you're supposed to be getting? We coming to watch you. You our boy. Those different things that they're hearing. So they got to be able to have, going back to that word discernment, who has their best interests at heart. But that's got to start with that relationship aspect of it.
Right. Guys, man, this has just been such a awesome time with you guys, and I'm just so fired up. And we're gonna come to the end of our episode, but we come to the end and we bring it to a huddle. And in our huddle, we just kind of like throw out some things that we've heard, or some things that we can call to action for our people. Some of the things that I heard was things like having discernment, building trust, building relationships, listening to understand instead of listening to respond. Just powerful things that everybody on our episode could take back and really big. Coach Huff, you said don't just find people that are yes people. Like, find somebody that's going to really challenge you and push you to another level of thinking. Coach Brown, you were big on like, got to have that relationship, you got to have that trust, you got to build that foundation. And like I said, we are so blessed to have each one of you guys on this episode. Before we get out of here, I do want to give everybody the opportunity to say their mottos to our audience. Just something that you say to them at the very end of practice to say, hey, you know what? I care about you, but at the same time, I want you to have this nugget before you walk out the door. I'm going to start. Mine is let love be the frequency, because Coach B loves you. I do everything that I do with love, and that's my motto. So let love be the frequency. Coach Huff, you can go. We'll let Coach Brown, and we'll end with Caitlin. Go ahead, Coach.
We talk about family. Forget about me. I love you. That's one of the big things that we talk about. We talk about having our 4 daily vitamin E's: energy, enthusiasm, execution, and effort. And then I'm throwing one out there new that they haven't even heard yet, because we haven't really been in the gym. But be the change. I just want them to be the change. That's what I want them to be.
Sneak peek. Love it. Coach Brown?
Our big thing at Booker T, and just something I use throughout my life, is our motto. It's on our door. We've got it on shirts. Don't get outworked, no matter what you do. In the classroom, on the court, at home, don't get outworked. And that's something I always tell them. You can, 3 things I cannot teach you that your parents can't teach your mom, dad, uncle, grandma, nobody can teach you. I'll tell them 3 things I can't teach you: energy, effort, and attitude. It's the only things I can't teach you. But if you have those 3 things, nobody's going to outwork you, and you're going to get what you want, not only on the court, but in life.
And for me, it's 1% better every day.
That's right. Coaches, thank you so much. We're blessed. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.